Many people in this country are dealing with an unmanageable debt load. But despite how common it is, most of the time people feel really alone. And that's a real drag, given that there is something to be gained from sharing stories and seeing that there are a lot of people out there who are dealing with circumstances that are similar to yours. We're going to focus on some of those stories. Our guest is Himank Bhatia. He is a credit counselor, financial coach, education lead at Credit Canada, and he's in St. Catharines, Ontario today. Hello, Himank.
Hi, Bruce. It's a pleasure.
You are on the phones every day. You are leading educational programs every day. How would you characterize how consumers are holding up these days?
It's tough, the headlines talk about interest rates and inflation, but when people walk through our doors or call us, they aren't talking about percentages. They're talking about the pit in their stomach. And
Mhm.
right now, we're seeing a profound sense of exhaustion. People have been holding it together for a long time. They're incredibly resilient, but they're tired of choosing between a grocery bill and a credit card payment. And there's quite numbness setting in for some where the debt feels so big that they've stopped looking at the statements. But under that numbness is a person who
Mhm.
just wants to sleep through the night without worrying about the phone ringing. They're holding up, but they shouldn't have to carry this weight alone.
Yeah. And on the one hand, every single human that we talk to is unique and their circumstances are unique. On the other hand, there are some stories that you see recur over and over again, and there's some commonality to that. So that's what I want to spend our time focused on, starting with those who are dealing with payday loans, and they've got themselves into this loop or spiral. Tell us about that.
Yes, so it's that personal weight that really hits home, and they look like everyday life that just got pushed too far. We see the payday loan spiral, as you said, where a $500 car repair turns into a mountain of debt because the interest is so predatory. It's like trying to run up a down escalator. We
Mm.
also see the great divorce area where someone who worked hard their whole life suddenly find themselves single at 55, trying to maintain a household on one income that used to have two. The credit card becomes the silent partner that pays for the transition until it can't anymore. And more recently, we are seeing the rise of sports betting debt. It's so accessible now, it's in your pocket, on your phone, and we've had numerous calls from young people, even parents who realized a fun hobby turned into a $50,000 debt of whole before they even realized they had a problem. So
I
each of
see these
these,
ads. I see these ads all the time. And I think part of me just wants to just stop, everybody stop, because it really is such a compelling proposition, that instant gratification, the thrill of gambling, and yet that ubiquity, it has an enormous cost to it, right?
right, right. And each of these stories, it starts with a person just trying to find a way through a hard moment. And there's no typical debtor. It's our neighbors, our friends, and our family members only. So that just surprises me.
Mm. We've talked about a couple of the acute situations. So people in a divorce who've got stuck in the payday loan cycle, maybe they've got or what has crossed over into an addiction to sports betting or some other addiction or substance abuse problem. Are you noticing too that the generic beige reality of the rising cost of living is what people are calling about? It's not like one big massive thing. It's the culmination of a lot of things that just have them have such a hard time making ends meet.
Right. And what surprises me most isn't the amount of debt, but who it's affecting. We are seeing more high income earners than ever before, people with six-figure salaries who are living in what I call it as like fragile luxury. On the outside, everything looks perfect, but one missed paycheck or one interest rate hike on their mortgage, and the whole house of cards begins to shake. So it's a reminder for us that debt doesn't care how much you make. It's a systemic pressure that can catch anyone.
One of the
right?
things that people are much more aware of these days than they were even 5 years ago is their credit score. People can get it for free. They can find out what it is. I was struck by the recent Equifax data that illustrated the rising number of mortgage delinquencies for people with higher credit scores. Are you starting to see that in the calls that you take, that people, with that metric, they're doing really well, but they still can't make ends meet?
Yeah, and it's much faster now. Like 10 years ago, debt felt like a slow leak. Today, mostly because of the buy now, pay later culture and instant digital credit, it feels like a flood. The cost of living has become so aggressive that debt isn't just for extras anymore. It's for eggs, it's for milk, the basic necessities. But while the causes have changed, the solution hasn't. The solution is still human connection and a structured plan. And that's why we are here. We moved
Yeah.
from, right?
Every call that you have ever been on in your career as a credit counselor has been both the same and completely different because the humans are completely different. What are some things that are maybe not the same, but are consistent to the conversations you have with clients? What does that sound like? What does it feel like? What do you cover?
Well, the most common one is the interest trap. When you're only making minimum payments, you aren't paying off your debt. You're just paying for the privilege of having it. But the biggest barrier is actually what I find is fear and shame. Shame is a silencer. It tells you that you're a failure, so you don't ask for help. It makes you hide the bills in the drawer. That isolation is the real enemy. And the math of debt is hard, but the psychology of debt is even harder. And once we tackle that fear, the math becomes manageable. That's my piece of advice on that.
How do you do that? I mean, I know that because I know you. You are kind, you are warm, you are thoughtful. But what are the ways in which that shows up in a counseling session? How do you reduce the shame? How do you create an opening for people to disclose?
Well, first of all, I want to say there's a way out for everyone. I want to say that again, everyone. We see people getting out by finally stopping the cycle of robbing Peter to pay Paul. They're using debt management plans to freeze interest and consolidate those terrifying monthly bills into one affordable payment. They are reclaiming their lives by setting boundaries with their money. And we've seen people paying off $40,000 of debt in 3 years, people who thought they would die in their debt. That's how this is through a structure. But the why is because they decided they deserved a little future. They deserved a future that wasn't owed by a bank.
When you think about I don't know how many calls with clients you've had, certainly many hundreds, maybe thousands, I don't know. What is the through line around hope? How would you characterize that? I know it's one of the big reasons why you do what you do.
Right. And the first step is simple, a confidential phone call. When you call Credit Canada, you aren't talking to a judge, you're talking to a coach, you're talking to a counselor. And we sit down with you, virtually or in person, and we look at the numbers together. We offer free credit counseling to help you understand your options, whether it's a repayment plan, budgeting help, or just a roadmap to breathe again. And the help is free, non-judgmental, and it works for everyone. To anyone listening, you're not a balance sheet. You are a human being who had a few tough years. That's all. So please don't let another night of sleep go by. Take that next step. Give us a call. There is a hope. There are solutions. And we are standing right here waiting to walk that path with you.
Himank, thank you for your time today, and thank you for your service with the clients at Credit Canada. We appreciate it.
It's a pleasure, Bruce. Thank you for inviting me.
Himank Bhatia is a credit counselor, a financial coach, and an education lead at Credit Canada. And he joined us to talk about, sure, the credit counseling process, but also, and hopefully, the stories that Credit Canada sees most often, so that if you're a listener or you know someone who's in a similar circumstance, you will know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are not alone.